So I've heard we've got some Lex Luthor casting news for Superman Legacy. Tell me they brought Michael Rosenbaum back, right? They brought Michael Rosenbaum back. That's what they did. No? Who'd they get? Nicholas Holt? Fuck it, I'm not doing the show. How much do you guys want to bet we get some ceremonial scene where Lex Luthor has to shave his head while in jail or some shit like that? I mean, it's not like we've seen it before or anything, right? Oh. Hmm. Oh. Well, may as well continue the tradition then, I guess, right? Let's shave Nicholas Holt's head. That's right. We've got Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor, plus plenty more Superman Legacy casting news to talk about here on JC's Pop Culture. Let's get it. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC's Pop Culture. No, it's been a minute since I put out a video here, but you guys that follow me on my other channel, Country Roads Webcast, know hard to get a lot of talk out here on the pop culture side during college football season. But now that that's come to a halt, be able to put up some more updates. And really, with the strikes going on, wasn't too much that we could talk about here on JC's Pop Culture. But now that that shit's over, we got plenty of news to talk about, starting with some DCU news here. And of course, my very favorite, some Superman news. That's right, James Gunn coming out with some new Superman Legacy casting news recently. We've got Lex Luthor coming down the line. We've got Maxwell Lord coming down the line. We've got Jimmy Olsen coming down the line. Whole slew into good shit coming down the line from James Gunn and the Superman Legacy news. That's going to kick off the new DCU. Couldn't be more excited about it. Happy to talk about that. Going to dive into that. And here in the future, we're going to have some more updates coming out on the channel. You guys know I love the horror movies too, so we're going to have some Halloween movie news to talk about here in the near future. We've had some news come out on that, so stay tuned to me here on JC's Pop Culture. As always, of course, I'm JC, asking you to hit that thumbs up button. Be sure and subscribe here if you love pop culture the way that I do. We're talking movies, TV shows, books, video games, whatever may come up along the way. Going to have most anticipated movies list for 2024 coming out soon, and of course, end of year top 10, top 15, however many I decide to rank movie rankings for this year, the new releases here in 2023, but all that shit's coming down the line. Right now, we got some great fucking news to talk about in terms of Superman Legacy right now, and that is the fact that we have some good casting news coming down the line that I'm pretty excited about, and then some others that I'm a little bit more questionable about, but I think it could turn out to be a good thing. Let's not bury the lead here. This is the one that I'm a little bit more questionable about personally, but obviously it's the one that everyone's probably going to want to talk about right off, and that is, of course, Superman's arch nemesis. You got to have Lex Luthor in the Superman movie. And in my opinion, I know I was playing around there a little bit in the cold open and shit. Obviously, I'm not that upset about it. Michael Rosenbaum, I think, is still the perfect quintessential Lex Luthor performance. As far as on-screen Lex Luthor's in the movies, I really don't think we've had that great of a Lex Luthor. I mean, Kevin Spacey, they nailed the casting, but they just had him doing an imitation of Gene Hackman. He didn't really play it the way that he could have played it. That could have been a great one. Gene Hackman, I don't know if I just saw it too late in life and I've already seen Gene Hackman in too many other roles. I could never see anyone but Gene Hackman in that. And then, of course, we got Eisenberg. I know everyone hates that as well. So, it's just not really had the best on-screen performances of Lex Luthor to this point, in my opinion. So I guess if you're putting a pro in Nicholas Kahn's corner, Nicholas Kahn, yeah, he's a fucking con man because he fucking stole this role. No, I'm kidding, guys. But seriously, if you're putting a check mark in any of the pros in Nicholas Holt's corner, it's the fact that, no one's really blown me away personally as Lex Luthor on screen. And, I talk shit about Nicholas Holt a little bit here, and that's just because I haven't really liked him in a ton of things that I've seen him in. What was The Menu a couple years ago? That was like a top 10 movie for me, and I really enjoyed his performance in that. Besides that, I haven't really enjoyed him in too much shit. I didn't really care for him as Beast in X-Men. Kelsey Grammer is obviously the preferred one that people are going to want there. And then I think when I look at a movie like Renfield this year, I really enjoyed that movie, but I wanted more Nicolas Cage and less Nicholas Holt. I think Nicholas Holt really held that shit back a lot for me. A lot of people are telling me his performance in Mad Max Fury Road is really great. I need to check that out. Also, I've heard he's bald, which of course he's going to be in this movie. Hopefully we don't get another scene of them shaving his head. I know I joked about it earlier, but let's just let him be Lex Luthor from the jump. Let's not, have to get into all that crazy shit or whatever. But let's pull up James Gunn here finally announcing this on his Instagram, I believe is where this comes from. Share this with you guys. since he could finally share this news. Of course, I think it was Deadline reported it back in November. But James Gunn, as you see here on Instagram, sharing a picture of him with Nicholas Hoult. He says, yes, finally I can answer. Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy, and I couldn't be happier. We went out to dinner last night to celebrate and discuss how we can create a Lex that will be different from anything you've seen before and we'll never forget. But James, we heard this weeks ago. Why didn't you tell us it was true? Because although we were discussing it, it wasn't final until a couple days ago, and I don't want to tell you all something that isn't certain. Anyways, here's to Lex and Nicholas, one of my very favorite characters in the DCU. So there you go. Lex Luthor in the DCU, going to be played by Nicholas Hoult. We have that coming down the line in Superman Legacy. And then, of course, as I said, we had some other casting news that I was a little bit more gung-ho on. And one of those for me is this one right here. I know a lot of people may not be as excited, but it's Jimmy Olsen, and it's Skylar Gisondo getting the role of Jimmy Olsen. He's a guy you've seen in probably plenty of stuff. I mean, you got to go back to, what was it, Rob Zombie's Halloween. He was the role of Tommy Doyle in Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. And then, of course, more recently, Righteous Gemstones, big key role in that movie, hilarious in that show. But he certainly looks the part of Jimmy Olsen, and I'm really just personally glad to see Superman's pal getting back in the action here for Superman Legacy and getting some of those classic characters back involved. As you see here, another classic character, Sarah Sampio, will be playing Eve Tessmacher in the movie, who we all know, of course, from the classic Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Miss Tessmacher! Miss Tessmacher! We might hear Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult screaming that shit throughout the movie. And let's hope so, right? That'll be a nice little callback. But I was more gung-ho on this casting news than I was on the Lex Luthor news. I think that Gisondo will knock Jimmy Olsen out of the park. And, of course, Miss Tessmacher, getting her involved, I think that's good for nostalgia purposes. If I had my druthers, I would rather have Mercy Graves. That's one thing I love that Zack Snyder included. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Zack Snyder films, BVS, Man of Steel. And I think the Snyder Cut's a fucking masterpiece of a movie. Maybe we'll review that someday here on the channel, but I'm glad to see, Jimmy Olsen being back. Would rather it be Mercy Graves there by Lex Luthor's side, but it's cool to see Miss Tessmacher return as well, and shows, James Gunn kind of has his heart there with the original classic Superman stuff. I think this won't be an origin story, but I think you're going to see a good mix of like a modern mixed with kind of that classic, still Boy Scout type Superman that a lot of people were missing from the Man of Steel films. A lot of people that didn't like those, like myself, complained about that shit. I think you're going to get a good mix of both here from James Gunn, as he says here, after auditioning hundreds of folks for both of these roles, we finally found perfect fits with both Skylar Gisondo and Sarah Sampio. Can't wait for you guys to see them in action in the summer of 2025. So we have Jimmy Olsen and Miss Tessmacher joining Superman Legacy. And then we also have a member of the Authority cast here as we get Maria Gabriela de Faria as Angelica Spisa, aka the Engineer. That was announced this November as well. And of course, the Engineer is probably a more obscure character. I personally do not know a ton about the Authority. When I looked them up a little bit, trying to do some research on them, when I heard James Gunn announce a potential project involving them, pretty much what I can gather is kind of they're the anti-Justice League. I want to do a little bit more research into them, but how about getting a little bit of entryway into that universe of the Authority here in Superman Legacy? I like James Gunn's first DCU movie here, introducing some other characters that are going to be, I think, a bit of world building here for this universe that they're looking to build in James Gunn's DCU. And I think that's one reason I'm not really complaining about some of these extra castings that are coming in. I know some people are like, oh, it's too many damn characters going to be in this movie. And I get that. You're worried about them stuffing too much into it. But I think more than anything, James Gunn's just going to have some little piece scenes here and there for a bit of world building for characters that are going to be used in later films throughout the DCU. And I think that's kind of what you're getting here with the Engineer. But just a little bit of this from this article on Screen Rant for some of you guys that may not know, like myself. Maria Gabriela de Faria's casting as the Engineer is one of the more exciting and unexpected DCU announcements, as de Faria's character is notably a member of the Authority, a superhero group rumored to be in Superman Legacy in order to set up for their own impending film installment. While it's still not clear whether the rest of the team will indeed be appearing in the first DCU movie, either way, having the Engineer appear will likely sow the seeds for bigger things to come and begin bringing one of DC's lesser known and more underrated factions to the forefront of the live action world. So like I said, doing a little bit of world building, as does the most recent casting news that we have. And you can't really have a James Gunn movie without Sean Gunn popping up somewhere. I know he's going to do a voice role in Creature Commandos, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but he's also going to have a role in the live action side of things, as he will now be playing Maxwell Lord. We've learned from Deadline here coming there in this first week of December. Sean Gunn to play villain Maxwell Lord in James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC universe. And as you can see here detailed in this article, the role was previously played by Pedro Pascal in the 2020 Wonder Woman 84. It's not clear if Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord will make a cameo in Superman Legacy, which will go into production next year. The character will be referenced in the background of Legacy, but will appear in future DC projects. A similar motif will occur for other characters in the new DC universe. The first phase, which is named God and Monsters Chapter 1. Of course, stay tuned for more on that, not only from Deadline, as they say in their article, but I'm talking about more from us here, because we're going to have a ton of DCU news to talk about here. More casting and more announcements coming out with Superman Legacy kicking things off. But with Sean Gunn being announced as Maxwell Lord, I would not be surprised to see him pop up in a little cameo role here in Superman Legacy as well. But as they reference, the Chapter 1 there, Gods and Monsters, to start James Gunn's DCU here, just as a quick reminder, let me show you guys the projects that are involved there in Chapter 1 of James Gunn's DCU. All right, guys, just to wrap up here, wanted to remind you guys of James Gunn's DCU, what we know coming here in Chapter 1, that Gods and Monsters, that Deadline reference there. We know that James Gunn's directing Superman Legacy. We also know now Andy Muschietti's directing Batman Brave and the Bold. And the films that we have confirmed, of course, we have Superman Legacy. We have a confirmed release date there in the summer of 2025 for it. We'll also be getting the movie about the Authority, be getting Batman the Brave and the Bold, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and Swamp Thing. And then the TV series we'll be getting in 2024, we're getting Creature Commandos and Waller. And then we'll also be getting Lanterns, Paradise Lost, which is a Themyscira series, I believe, and Booster Gold. That's what we have confirmed so far in Chapter 1 of the DCU here, the Gods and Monsters period. This coming from the DCU Extended Wiki here. Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. That's what we've got there. So far confirmed 6 films and 5 TV series coming down the pipe to kickstart James Gunn's DCU, starting with Superman Legacy. And just as a refresher on the complete cast that we now have, now that we've now added Lex Luthor, Miss Tessmacher, Jimmy Olsen, and the Engineer to these roles, we now know that in Superman Legacy, we're going to see David Cornsweet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Edie Gathidi as Mr. Terrific, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner Green Lantern, Anthony Kerrigan as Metamorpho, Maria Gabriela de Faria as the Engineer, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Sarah Sampio as Miss Tessmacher, and Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. And then, of course, most recently, hasn't yet been added here to the wiki, but we just talked about it, and that is Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord. Those are all the confirmed characters that we have cast thus far in 2025's upcoming Superman Legacy that will jumpstart James Gunn's DCU, and I'm as excited as hell about it. All right, so there you got it, guys. What we know so far about James Gunn's DCU and Superman Legacy. Let me know how you're feeling about these casted roles. Which ones are you most excited about? Which ones are you a little bit more questionable about, as I am kind of with Nicholas Hoult and Lex Luthor, just pretty much due to my personal feelings about him. But I guess the good part about it is he is playing a villain, right? So, I mean, if I don't like him usually in most roles, if he's playing, one of the most well-known villains, one of the most infamous villains in all the damn DCU, I guess that's a good role for him to play. He's going to be easy for me to not like. So maybe I really will enjoy getting to see Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. But how are you guys feeling about everyone that's been casted thus far? Anyone that we recapped in this video, or James Gunn's DCU, and as it's shaping up at this point? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I really appreciate those interactions, trying to grow this JC's Pop Culture channel. And like I said, going to have plenty more DCU movie news coming ahead of time. And of course, more news on Superman Legacy and any other pop culture shit that we want to talk about here on the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in at this time. Look forward to you guys tuning in the future and chatting with you guys in the near future about some more of this Superman Legacy stuff. Should be some good shit. Should be some good shit coming down the line. And I'm really excited to talk about it with you guys. As always, I'm JC. Looking forward to the next one. Later, film fans.